So everyone, I'd like to meet Randi Prichard. Randi, say hi to the
Hello.
group.
Hi, everybody.
So I met Randi. Was it this last retreat or the one before that you were on stage? Mike had you on stage.
It was the last retreat, I believe.
The one in July.
Yes.
A year. Okay. Very good. So it's interesting because I make a big deal and have for about 3, 4, 5 years. I had finally realized that you great top agents seem to have many, many, many things in common. But one is something that I'm not sure any of you really had recognized, so I certainly didn't. I've been doing this for 40 something years, is that you all dominate smaller markets. Okay.
Mm-hmm.
And when I say, and some have full cities and some have full counties, et cetera, et cetera. But it's fascinating how that works. And so what we've been teaching, coincidentally, and this is kind of where you're going to really be able to help us in a big way, is to get bigger. We're teaching people to get smaller in that they shrink their community and shrink some of the things that they're doing. And I think you've taken it to the nth degree. I mean, your market isn't very big. You're in, let's tell everybody, what city are you in?
So I'm in Bishop, California. And so because you guys are in LA, you might know we're between Los Angeles and Mammoth Lakes. We're the pass-through town that you hit on 395. Our marketplace is a total of 11,000 people surrounding area, and a little bit of that then is reservation land where we don't sell properties, and so that cuts it back a little bit further. But that's where I'm at, and I'm lucky because I am, in some regards, I'm limited, like you said, thinking smaller, I'm limited by my borders. I can only go so far, but I can understand where that makes good sense.
So Bishop, California has about how many real estate agents and about how many transactions a year, more or less?
So last year, I made a note, 568 transactions last year in our MLS.
568 homes sold.
Correct. Or 568
property.
actual transactions, I think. Let me look here.
Okay.
I pulled up my report so we can kind of see.
Thank you.
Yes, so that is number of sites of transactions, 568.
568 sides. Okay.
Correct.
Excellent.
And there's about 30 agents.
30.
Yes.
Okay. So small market, small number of deals, really.
Yes.
So if you were to take 568 and divide it by 30 agents, that would be about 15 transactions per person, per agent, if they were doing that, right?
If they were doing that. Right.
If they were doing that, right.
Yeah.
And so how many transactions did Randi do during that period of time?
Last year, we ended up at 166. 166 transactions.
166 sides out of the 568.
That's correct.
Okay, that's it. Seminar's over. You win. That's fantastic.
I want 568.
I get it. You want what's available. I understand that. I understand the personality. I get it. Okay, so how long in the business?
About 20 years.
Okay, good. And I mean, did you take over a family business or something like that? Or how did you start in this?
No, I was a waitress at one of the local restaurants.
Okay.
I was straight out of high school. Was a little more than 20 years ago. I started as an assistant. I didn't know what the word real estate actually meant when I took the job. And so it just came from there. I literally fell into it and have made a career out of it, and it's been great.
So when you say you fell into it because you took a job just to eat being a real estate agent's assistant.
That's correct.
Is that kind of what you meant? Okay.
Yes.
And then and then one thing led to, by the way, is that agent still in the business?
She retired
Uh-huh.
several years ago. Her and
Okay.
I were business partners for quite some time, probably
Okay.
about 15 of those years. And she retired, and she comes in and works part-time, sometimes as an assistant in the office, and does light admin. But so she's
So,
no longer in the marketplace, but lives here in town.
okay. How dominant was she when she was selling actively, but when you started working for her?
She was also number one agent.
Uh-huh.
So I learned a lot in regards to what I did from her, and she was um, in the market. So she had been in the market for 30 years,
Got it.
locally as well.
Okay. So you kind of helped take over what she was doing. What
Sure.
was her what was her top transactions? I'm sure the agents want to know that. What did
As
she
far
do?
as numbers,
Yeah, what do you
I
think she
think that
did?
the best year we had, we would count those numbers together. The best year we had together was 126.
Okay. And what did she do by herself?
Probably about 80 to 90 of those.
Okay. Okay. Good. All right. So it was a good start, good jump start, right?
Yeah.
Okay. Good. Excellent. Excellent. And so how did you, I mean, where does the business come from? I mean, how many people did you say? 11,000 in the city?
Yeah. So business, 3,000 in the city, 11,000 on the outskirts of town.
Okay.
Business, where does it come from? It comes from the postman and all the people that deliver our mail.
Okay.
It comes from the people at the restaurants and the retail stores. Comes from people at the bank a lot. So what we've been good about doing is building a great center of influence.
Okay.
And thinking about it that way. So if someone out from outside the area were to come in, they might not have heard of us because we're an independent small firm, right? But when they ask, when they say they're going to look for something, the waitress says, "Oh, you should call so and so, or you should call Randy Prichard." And you go, and then the next person they talk to is the fellow at the propane company, for example, and they say, "Oh, you should talk to Randy Prichard." If my name comes up 2 or 3 times when they visit the area, I've got the business.
Got it.
So,
Got it. So, and if you're in a very big community with lots of zip codes, they could go to the propane guy, but the propane guy might be 5 miles away from somebody else. And so that would create a bit of an issue. So how do you approach the propane guy or the gas station guy how does that work relationship wise?
so initially, I think I make sure that my staff knows to, number one, treat all of the service providers really nicely. We have a lot of times those service providers will end up referring us because they enjoy working with us as well. So if my staff is kind to them, appreciative and grateful for their service, and we express that, then that return. We do send out a thank you card quarterly to our service providers with business cards, thanking them for their business, and asking for business. So, we will make sure to pass on your name. We ask that you pass out our card as well. Please call us if you need anything.
So, okay, I like that. I think that's really good. How many attorneys are there in town?
We have about 15 attorneys, and we do the same with the attorneys as well.
See, that's what I wanted to ask. So the attorney says, "Hey, of course I'll pass out and give information to somebody about you. I want you to do the same to me." Yet you have 15 different attorneys that are. How do you balance that? I get that question all the time from agents.
For us, I guess it just depends on what those attorneys want to do. Number one is a lot of them. I have one attorney that likes to do family law. I have one attorney that so she will refer another attorney for real estate law. So I will refer my real estate people to a real estate fellow. And so maybe we don't get all of them, But when we're the second backup too. So I don't mind being the backup because oftentimes it builds into a bigger relationship later. So
Okay.
if that attorney, maybe I'm not their first person on the list, but then the agent's out of town or they need something right away and that agent can't do it, then I'm the backup. So
Got
it
it.
doesn't always work that, every single one sends me their business, but I still send them the card and I still call them.
Okay, good. So just the expectation and being available
Mhm.
and being nice to everybody.
Correct.
Got it. So that's the attorneys, that's the accountants, that's the guy or gal that uh, services your car and waits tables. I
Right.
mean, does that come? So let me ask you something. When you were waiting tables, was everybody nice to you?
No, not everybody.
No,
But
I
that's
get
my
that.
goal, to be nice to them.
Yeah. Okay. Okay. No, this is great. I was a busboy in a prior life, so I get that service thing.
Yes.
And actually, people look down at you, but it was very interesting because that busboy and that waitress and that cook and the guy or gal that's servicing your car can make or break you. Is the attitude you've taken?
Yes,
Wow.
absolutely.
Wow.
And
Same
a
thing with
ton of
escrow
our
officers too.
Yeah, a ton of our
Yeah.
business does come
Yeah.
from just that sector. So again, I think that in a small town where it's different, if you're in a big area, I think people get the general consensus when you're in a big area, it doesn't matter to be nice to everyone because there's an unlimited amount of people. But if you just focus on your small little center of influence and your sphere, where do you go each week? Where do you do? Being nice to those people, asking them for business, and generating referrals from that little circle as to what you do, I think you'd be amazed of over time what that would bring.
That's great advice. That's great advice. So it's the sphere that the circle that you're already doing, or the streets that you already go on back and forth. Kind of like Bishop is your farm.
Right. It is.
Yeah.
It's like a farm, is what it
Uh-huh.
is. But
Interesting.
so.
Interesting. Very, very good. So, switching gears slightly, how has it, and maybe it hasn't, the COVID-19, has it changed the way you do business? Has it changed your business at all?
Um, I think the first couple weeks I was a little paralyzed by the unknown and the fear of it all. Right. Everybody.
Mm-hmm.
Um, I kind of had to pull myself up by the bootstraps and say, okay, what are we seeing here, and how is it affecting my day-to-day life? It doesn't really affect my day-to-day life overall. Our area also is pretty it's sparsely populated, so it's not like you have huge amounts of people. We are still showing homes. We have, of course, the added getting the proper coronavirus advisory form signed before entering. So it creates a few more stages, making sure that our sellers are prepared, making sure we pivoted a little bit. The way we were doing access, keys, lock boxes, those type of things. The biggest thing and struggle that I've had is with staffing, just trying to make sure I'm supportive of them, trying to ease their concerns and fears, because we still have the business and we need to still be at work and doing our job, but that's definitely been a challenge, is staffing.
Got it. Uh, uh, is your business virtual kind of anyway? Is it a resort kind of a town, or is Bishop, everybody you do business with lives in the house that they're selling or buying?
So it's mainly primary owners.
Okay.
We have very few vacation homes. So that has been, a lot of the people do live here
Okay.
and do occupy their homes. So we have seen the people that we're planning to list in the spring, they've been needing their homes to shelter in. So we've seen a little lower inventory. We're still struggling with inventory levels. We have started to do the 3D virtual tours so that way people can view those before, and that's kind of cutting our showings back to the most serious. We're making sure it's nice because it gives you a great excuse to make sure everyone's pre-approved and pre-qualified.
Right.
So it helps us to say, hey, we need to make sure that for the seller's protection, your protection, and everyone involved, that you have your lender pre-approval ready. So we're finding that right now our buyers are super highly motivated buyers in comparison to a month and a half or 2 months ago.
Well, those are the only ones you're working with anyway.
That's right.
Right. So do you use a buyer broker agreement?
I have not.
Okay.
My coach has, Ira has recommended I do that. I have not. I set some expectations, and I tell them that I expect them to also be loyal to me and working with them, but I have not ever used a exclusive.
Okay. All right. Okay, cool. All right. Okay. So, what's your morning routine like? Let me back up just a little bit. Do you prospect almost every day?
I was prospecting.
Okay, that's interesting.
Yeah, and then once you fall off the edge, sometimes it's hard to climb back up on the horse.
Well, that's very true. That's very true.
So I do prospect usually, and I don't do as much prospecting as some people do. I prospect primarily past clients, and that I usually call about 5 to 10 a day, as far as in the morning. If I don't do it in the morning, it doesn't happen.
Really?
So,
I thought that only happened to us.
no. I thought you'd ask me about my morning routine. And I thought about my morning routine lately, and I thought about my morning routine before. I think it's before coronavirus and after, right? BC's not, has changed a whole different, BC's become something different before Corona.
So tell us a little bit about that, because look, we're all in the similar kind of boats, okay? And so we'd love to hear about that. Absolutely.
So beforehand, I wake up about 6 o'clock. I'm in the office at 8 o'clock in the morning. I have an accountability partner that I was texting with each and every day. Right now we've modified that. Go ahead.
No, go ahead.
We modified that to we're checking in Mondays with like goals of what we want to accomplish that week. And then on Fridays, we are saying, okay, what did we accomplish and what's for the next week? So
how many accountability partners did you say? 3 of them?
I only have one.
One. Okay.
Yeah.
Okay.
Which helps tremendously. So again, before this, we were doing every day. We would check in when we were starting our calls. And so then the first week hit and the office was still open to just us. And then the second week hit, we closed the office and sent staff home to work remotely. So I was coming in later. I would still kind of go into the office, but I was coming in late. I was off schedule. It just was a bit frazzled. So now I'm back to being in the office at 8 o'clock, and I'm trying to get back to my calls. I'm only doing 5 a day right now. And I'm just in extra close contact with my current clients, trying to hold what I have together. So we didn't have any fall throughs that first month, which was
good. Great.
Good.
Yeah. Absolutely.
So
good. So we're sensing business is coming back a little bit. The activities are coming back. Are you seeing the same thing?
So I have one other agent in my office. His Jose Franco, and he works with me, but we have made the comment that yes, we feel just about as busy as we were before all of this happened. I mean, as far as new leads coming in, inquiries. So the buyers we feel are there. We now have to reach those sellers to tell them, now get the house on the market.
So do you have 11,000 people in your database?
No, I have. That is something else I did during this. It was the first week I took a sales call, and it was somebody about a database. It made me clean up my database. So we went through and took the downtime to actually convert and clean up our database. I have 1,900.
Okay. So you
And
cleaned up your database over the last few weeks.
yes. And
Okay.
then I have 1,900 in there currently, but there should be probably another 800 just center of influence, and I'll be working to add those people over the next couple of weeks.
Got it. Okay. Excellent. Excellent. Uh, how about virtual listing presentations or any of that virtual kind of stuff? Did you practice and implement any of that over the last few weeks?
I have a mastermind group that we talked about, we didn't do it, I haven't practiced it, talked about the different tips and things we could do as far as on our virtual presentation. There was a virtual presentation that I had watched that I thought was excellent. So I haven't practiced it, but I haven't had the need for, I've done it over the phone mainly. I have met buyers over Zoom or over FaceTime that I maybe would normally meet face to face in the office or at a property beforehand. So I've done a couple of those where to build a little bit more rapport than just on the phone.
Okay, great. So before you had your arms around the database, where was the database?
It was at about almost 3,000.
Oh.
I
So
got
you
rid of a
actually
lot.
so you actually, to get bigger, you got smaller.
I did. I took because
Interesting.
I went through and realized, okay, half of these sellers that sold 15 years ago that didn't live in they've moved out of the area and they have no other connections in the area. I got rid of all those. So I really trimmed it up.
Okay, good. Excellent. Excellent. Interesting. All right. Um, so was it in a CRM at the time?
It was in Top Producer, yes.
Top Producer, and it's still in Top Producer?
I have Top Producer. I have been experimenting with, we were using Top Producer not as a great CRM. I'm old fashioned. I use 3x5 cards usually for my leads. So we would only enter them into the computer once they were under contract.
A transaction.
So right now I'm trying a new program called Levitate. I don't know if anybody has used it, but so far, I mean, it's brand new, so I can't really say one way or the other how I feel about it.
Okay, cool. All right. Appreciate that. And how do you touch base with these clients? Is it just the 4 or 5 phone calls a year? Is it going and buying gas and going to the supermarket? Do you email? Do you text? Do you snail mail? What do you do?
A little bit of everything. So past clients, we do it's basically every other month, mail them a postcard.
Mm-hmm. Kind of a Corfax thing?
Just listed, just sold postcard, or it's just sold postcards. I don't do just listed, but I'm thinking about doing a just listed. So that touches some of those people in that database just from being in the neighborhood. Yes, it's being out in public. So it's by actually going and doing things that people see you out and about. I have 2 kids, so making sure I'm involved in whatever they're doing, which is limited right now. We're not doing as much. So I text people to check in, or if a house gets listed that is in their neighborhood, I might just text them the price and tell them what's going on. So I'm always trying to reach those people when I think, okay, that's something that it might have value to them.
Okay. So the fact that your town is also your database, your sphere, are you on 24/7? Do you have time for Randi and her family? How does that work?
I think you're always a bit on, yes. I try to make sure that I take care of myself by, shutting off my cell phone on a Sunday. I'm to the point now with my database, I don't take a lot of appointments on Saturdays and Sundays. That's appointment only. And I'm lucky to be able to do that because, again, that's just where my business is. But my husband does complain that all I do is talk about real estate. Or I might get lost, like if we go to the store together, I'm stuck talking to somebody for,
Sure.
and I'm lost. So he does complain about that sometimes.
All right. Okay.
But he likes the benefits of it.
I get it. And Bishop, you're probably the richest woman up there.
Well, I don't try to tell everyone.
So how much is 160? What is 160 transaction gross for you, more or less?
Last year, 1.3 million.
You are definitely the biggest earner in Bishop. I guarantee it.
So.
Good for you. Good job. So with that, let's talk excitement, motivation. What gets you up in the morning and stays in the game? I mean, come on, if you're not the biggest earner, you're one of them. You know, you sound like a savvy businesswoman. And so I'm sure you have most of the money or a good amount of the money that you have earned. And what keeps you in the game?
I battle with complacency like everybody else. I mean,
Okay.
That's the honest truth. But I think just my competitive spirit. I think I go out there, I have a staff that I feel loyal to. I have trying to set an example for my kids. I like what I do when I'm talking with people and helping them. But I think like even more than it's just, I don't want it like this. I could say, okay, I could just shut the doors, but I'm not going to let something like this beat me.
Okay, good. So what about the grind? I hear about the grind all the time. I have to grind. Okay. Is the grind, I mean, you get up, it sounds like every day, although your every days, there's no question that COVID-19 kind of changed a little bit of the schedules. In some cases more, some cases less. For me, I got 2.5 hours a day more work to be able to do because I wasn't in traffic.
Mm-hmm.
So I mean, that was huge for me.
Yeah,
so
I could imagine.
But so it sounds like you moved off a center slightly and you're moving back into it right now. But I mean, do you ever feel like it is a grind? Does that
Sure, there's days I feel like it's a grind.
Mm-hmm.
But I think that for me, when I'm so being interviewed by you, that's out of my comfort zone.
Okay, well, thank you very much for allowing this.
Push myself to do things that are a little bit outside my comfort zone, that's motivating. Okay. It's challenging. It changes things up a little bit. I don't always feel like it's a grind. It's just when the grind is when you stop doing what you were supposed to and you have to pedal the bike a little bit more to get the momentum built.
The momentum going. Okay.
So the only time I feel it's a grind is when it's self-inflicted. When I've stopped doing kind of everyday things that led me to where I was, if I stop doing those and I have to then pedal the bike a little harder because I let it slip.
Okay. And that annoys you.
Yeah, that annoys me.
Got it. And then once you get the bicycle moving a little bit more and it's a little easier to move, then you're back in the flow of things.
Correct.
So, okay, great. So with that in mind, what do you do to prevent yourself from getting off track so you don't have to, quote unquote, get out of momentum?
Good question. I think for me, feeding my brain with all the good stuff. That's important. I think as agents or when you're feeling that grind or you're feeling down, it's just making sure that you look at what other people are doing and trying to find out the newest and best things that you can be doing for yourself. It's trying to make sure I'm healthy and feed my body and my mind with the good stuff. The second I do go off of those things, then you can hear the negativity start to creep in and it takes over. So I try really hard when I feel that to start listening to podcasts or I listen to Tony Robbins, or I listen to Mike Ferry, or I'll listen to whatever I can feed myself in. I don't really care who it is, but I like to do that.
Okay.
That's a
So
big habit.
that's awesome. Is there a particular book or podcast you're listening to right now?
I read all, I probably read about 14 books at a time and never all the way through.
I understand. I can totally relate. I can totally relate.
That one down.
Yeah.
I think that I do listen to Tony Robbins podcasts. I listen to Tim Ferriss. I listen to Seth Godin. I listen to all of anything I can get. I pick and they all have things that don't interest you, right? And so I skip over those. I only do the things that I feel that motivate me.
Got it. Okay. All right. So you're in tune to what does motivate you. You're in tune to, if you get off track, you have to grind. So you try to work to stay on track, so to speak.
Yeah.
Got it. Fantastic. Well, this has been great. Why don't we open it up to some questions? You got a minute?
Sure.
A little bit more time? Great.
Sure.
So let's ask some questions. What do we have? Anyone have any questions that they would like to ask Randi?
I have a comment.
Alex, go ahead.
Yeah, I found that Randi is very honest. She does not present herself as this super agent that does everything perfect. She shows that the COVID affect her schedule at the beginning, and that she is human and recover from weekdays or wherever. So I like that honesty in her speech.
Great. Fantastic.
Thanks.
Great. Thank you for sharing that. Absolutely. Good job.
I have a question, Neil.
Go ahead, Armin.
Randi, you live in Bishop, and I'm familiar with the area. How high do you go up? Do you go all the way up to Mammoth or June Lake, or all the way down, say, Independence, Big Pine? Do you stretch your area, or is it around Bishop?
Okay, so my primary, I do go to June Lake, or I go to Mammoth, or I go to Lone Pine. That is not my primary market. There are a lot of, and the reasons why are, there's a lot of different reasons, because I have quite a bit of business to do here, close in, and that then is about a 45-minute drive either direction. So I do represent people up in Mammoth. It's a different market. That's a second, third, fourth homeowner market. A lot of condominiums, a lot of HOAs, and so we don't deal with that down here in Bishop. And so I don't always feel as if I'm probably the best to represent everybody. And if I feel like I can do it and do it in a properly, and that I'm going to represent them the best, I will. And if I don't, I'll refer them to another agent.
Perfect.
Great.
Good.
Thank you.
Good
Hey,
job.
Neil.
Thank you. Yes, Michael.
I want to ask you, and maybe I missed that part. What percentage of your business come from past clients or centers of influence?
It's pretty substantial. So about 80 to 85% of my business comes from past clients
Okay.
Perfect.
or
Thank you.
center of
Yeah.
influence.
Thank you.
All right. Good job. All right. Go ahead. Nancy Dupre.
Okay. Hi, Randy. Thanks
Hi,
for
Nancy.
being here. My question was about something you mentioned in the beginning about prospecting to attorneys. How do you get over some of the objections they have, such as, oh, my clients all have their own real estate agents, or other objections that attorneys give?
I think that what I do is I try to look at it as, we all get some of those. When I call, I'm just there to check in with them to see if they have any questions about the market or the real estate market in general. So offer them, and they may have a question or two. Number two, ask if they have any clients that they know of that need anything from me. I offer out that also that I do valuations for estate purposes, or am available if they need it for divorces, those type of things. So I then, maybe my second call will ask for the business. So I'm offering out a service to them and not asking for anything in return. And then the next call, ask for some, again, maybe ask for business, and see if they have anybody that they can refer or that needs assistance. So
That's great. Excellent. So and you position yourself as a second opinion.
that's correct. Yeah.
Right. Okay. So if you, odds are you're getting a little pushback. This is my suspicion. If you're getting a little pushback, or it's not going as well, if you put yourself in it, look, I know you already have business, etc. I know you already have a relationship, but if something comes up and they're sick that day, call me. Is
Right.
that kind of where you put yourself?
Yes. So
Yeah.
our dynamic is interesting. Again, I'm working with the same, 15 lawyers.
Right.
So the chances are I may have worked on the other side of another divorce from them and provided the valuation. So there's times where maybe they want my opinion versus another's because they've seen what that was, or their client has. So oftentimes, again, it's just making sure that I know and I set my expectation. I might not get every time, but it's not going to keep me from calling them because there are times I do get the business from them.
Perfect. Good job. Excellent. Excellent. Somebody else have their hand up? Nope. All right. Well, so what's one or two things as we wind it down here? What's one or two things that you could give us that you can think of that for you has been really helpful and not difficult necessarily to do? What's one or two thoughts you can leave us with today? Anything?
As far, let's see. I think that, again, making sure that at the beginning of the week, I set many goals for that week. Making it small, achievable. What tasks do I want to accomplish? Do I want to contact, a particular for sale by owner? Do I want to, how many calls do I want to maybe make that week? Do I want to get a house into escrow that I have listed or get a price reduction? Setting those little mini goals that week and then checking those off my list so that on Friday I can look back and feel accomplished. That helps me to stay motivated.
Okay, good.
And then making a making a list of all those people you come into contact that you don't even really think about. The people, like I said, that when you go to pay a bill or you go to the grocery store or you just making sure that they know you're in real estate.
Okay, good. Excellent. All right, let's give Randi a big thank you, applaud, good work, fantastic. Woohoo!